we're lucky to have Kalen Iwamoto here with us tonight, who's a writer and founder of the Crypto Writers Discord, who has done a lot of incredible projects around crypto and writing and NFTs, and is sort of pioneering what's happening in this space. And it's totally fascinating. The whole purpose of this talk is sort of to explain to you all, what we've seen and what we find interesting about this space, and open it up for like a discussion about where this stuff might go. So yeah, Kalen, you're from Canada, but you live in France.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Very cool. One of the things I love about this, like Wordloops, is that we have people from all over the world coming in and exchanging ideas. So it's pretty cool to, the wonder of the internet. And thanks for waking up. It's like 6 a.m. your time. So thanks for waking up for this.
No problem. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Okay, so crypto writing, I think like the first thing that we want to get out of the way is just like, what is crypto writing? And to really understand that, I think just quick primer for people who don't really understand, like, what is crypto? What is blockchain? What is Ethereum? What are NFTs? It's the kind of thing, like, the more you learn about it, the more complicated it seems to get, but we're going to attempt to explain it in the most simple way possible, and then show you sort of what it is in practice. So basically, like, first, like blockchain, Web3, crypto, they're all sort of like almost synonymous for this technology that is kind of a breakthrough in computer science that essentially makes data trustworthy, tamper-proof, and collectively owned by the users themselves, decentralized. So what that means is, instead of a single centralized server, it's created by a group of computers talking to each other and agreeing on things written in programmable code called smart contracts. And so, Bitcoin, everyone's talking about Bitcoin, Elon Musk is tweeting about Bitcoin. That's a cryptocurrency. And Ethereum is both a cryptocurrency and a platform to build decentralized apps. Ethereum allows for the creation of these things called NFTs. Might have seen like NBA Top Shot or Crypto Punks or people selling art at Christie's for like tens of millions of dollars. Simple way of understanding NFTs are that they make digital media ownable and collectible, and sometimes people pay a lot of money for these things. So the promise of crypto writing is that it's an application of this technology, but instead of directed at visual art or music, it's directed at writing. The writing is decentralized, so it's not hosted on something like Medium or WordPress or Amazon. There's no gatekeeper or middlemen like you would find on a traditional publisher or platform. You have these smart contracts that can allow for new distribution of ownership and relationships between writers, collaborators, and readers. And maybe most exciting, I don't know, it depends on your proclivities, new forms of storytelling might be possible as a result of this. So it's a brand new space, like, really brand new. People have been working on the technology for years and years, but now is a time when the platforms are getting to the point where tools are being accessible to mainstream creators. The platforms to buy and sell NFTs or crypto writing are brand new. They're being invented and iterated on almost every day. And some of them can seem like super intimidating, complicated on first glance. It's the early days. It's in some ways, it's kind of like feels like for people in this space, like it's the early days of the internet, like during the .com boom, or even like if you're in publishing and ebooks, like the early days of ebooks when they started changing what was possible in traditional publishing. And so it's really a Wild West. And in these Wild West situations, there's usually a lot of opportunity for people who are first to the party. And so we could go on and on about this, but I think it's going to be easier if I let Kalen talk and she sort of shows us some of her projects, and I guess explains a little about, like, Kalen, like, how'd you get into this? Like, what motivated you to sort of say, like, I'm going to make writing NFTs and I'm going to start a crypto writers Discord?
Well, so how I got into crypto, it was actually my husband. We started actually pretty early, like 2014 or 15. He was really into Bitcoin and Dogecoin. I don't know if you guys have heard of Dogecoin. Elon Musk is really, he really likes Dogecoin. And he was even mining and he was like really into it. But I've kind of like really shied away from like technology like all my life. So I wasn't really interested at the time. And then, and we didn't keep any of the Dogecoin. We had like 10 million Dogecoin and we sold it all. But and then we dabbled in it again in 2017. But then I had like 2 kids. I had a newborn, so life kind of got busy, and then so we didn't continue. But then last summer or fall, he learned about NFTs. And my husband's a visual artist. He's kind of a jack of all trades type artist. He has like an MFA and he's like a musician and makes videos and graphic design and he's an art director or whatever. So, and we also collect art as well, like physical art. So we were naturally really drawn to NFTs as opposed to just like the cryptocurrency side of it. And when we discovered NFTs, we were really interested. We suddenly got really interested in the crypto art scene. And at first we started off as collectors. We were really into art blocks and meme. I don't know if you guys know meme. Excuse me. Sorry, I've got this really bad cold and I apologize if I have like a really nasally voice today. So anyway, we started off collecting. And because we're both like artists and writers, we naturally wanted to kind of get in on the action and start creating things and making NFTs as well. I'm not a visual artist. And right now it's predominantly, crypto art is predominantly a visual, like it's a visual, like digital art. And because I can't draw or paint or do any of that, I was like, why not try to do some writing, like explore that avenue. And I've always written. I've never published anything. I've always written, but you know, I've never shared my writing with other people. And my husband's always encouraged me to write more and to share my work. So he was kind of a catalyst. Like he encouraged me, yeah, like crypto literature, you know, you should try to do something around that. And yeah, that's how I got the idea of trying to bring writing into the space. And the crypto writer Discord. So when I first started, I guess I had the idea around late 2020. And at the time, there was like nobody doing writing. I think there was Simon de la Riviere. He's like an OG. He's very knowledgeable. He's been around for a really long time, and I think he had made NFTs. So he wrote this novel, and I think I saw NFTs of excerpts of his novel. And I think there was another guy called Sebastian who was minting his short stories. But those were the only 2 examples that I could find. But then after a while, and then I minted my first NFT, I think in early 2021. And then after a while, being on Twitter, like crypto Twitter, I started getting these messages from people who were like, yeah, I'm also thinking about writing and NFTs. And so I started having these conversations with different people, including like James. And there were a lot of really interesting projects that people were doing and people were thinking of. And, you know, sometimes I would talk to someone and I would think, oh, you know, I wish I could introduce them to this person because, you know, they could really benefit from each other's knowledge or ideas. And, but because I was only connecting with them one-on-one, I felt like we were all kind of isolated. And and I think I was just really excited about the whole thing. I was excited about what I was doing, what they were doing, and what was just happening in the space in general. And so I wanted to create a community because, you know, as writers in a predominantly visual art space, I thought we could, you know, kind of band together and help each other and support each other and kind of bounce ideas off each other. And so, yeah, that's kind of how the Discord got started. I literally just tweeted about it and I just tagged a bunch of people, said, I want to help create a community of crypto writers. And then I mentioned the people who I'd connected with already. And then, yeah, I started the Discord. And yeah, there were a handful of people at the beginning. I think that was in March, or I think. And now there's about, I don't know, about 100 people in the Discord.
Yeah, I mean I think that's how I found it, was on Twitter. I like remember I was like, you know, I was sort of trying to wrap my head around what the hell was going on with NFTs, because I was seeing everybody talking about it, and you know, I'd been in like all these other technologies like really early, like virtual reality, augmented reality, AI. This is the first time I saw like people, the masses, sort of actually spending money on things, and they were spending money on like basically JPEGs, and I was like trying to understand this. And then I was also having the thought, like, why not books? Like if they're saying that this stuff is collectible, why wouldn't writing be collectible as well on the internet? And so when I saw this, I was like, ah, yes, other people are having this idea. And I think like for anybody here who's not in that Discord, like we can drop the link by the end of this. Like definitely join. It's for sure the best place to be on the internet right now to like talk about what's happening in writing and crypto. And then, so Kalen, can you like, what was the first thing that you sort of made? Can you show us that?
I think the easiest way to show you is on my Twitter because it's in a thread, so it makes more sense. So just to give a little crypto background for people who are not too familiar. So if you understand, do you want me to talk about like what I think crypto writing is before I?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
like, because I think that was probably like your inspiration for something like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
because from my point of view, like this sort of combines like you've got writing, but it's also commenting about like the blockchain itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think crypto writing, there's like at least 3 like categories, let's say, and they're all equally like valid. And I think at the most basic level, you have a piece of writing and you basically tokenize it and you make it an NFT. And that can be any piece of writing. Like it could be, you know, your short story, your novel, what have you. And then, and I think another type of crypto writing is when you have writing that's somehow like crypto related, like it has a crypto theme, or maybe it takes place in the metaverse, or it has some sort of crypto reference. And there's definitely crypto culture baked into the writing itself. And then I think there's writing that could only happen in the crypto space. And I think it could take many forms, but basically this is writing that couldn't happen anywhere else. Like it couldn't be a book, or it couldn't be a blog article or whatever. Personally, I'm most interested in the last 2 categories. So something that really takes the crypto side of things seriously. And I mean, I call myself a crypto writing, and I think like both crypto and writing is equally important in like what I do, or I try to make it that way. And so, yeah, so that's what excites me the most, like writing that's inherently crypto, or it's part of the crypto culture. So the first one I'm going to talk about is my first series, my first project. It's called Few Understand, which few understand is is kind of like a phrase that people in crypto use a lot. Few understand is, yeah, it's like not a lot of people understand about crypto, about, you know, it's just something that gets bandied about a lot. And I'm going to open this thread. So in this one, at first I didn't really know how to work around the fact that basically an NFT is like this, usually what you see is like this small square. And you couldn't fit like a short story into that square, but I wanted everyone to be able to see immediately the writing and not have it in an unlockable content or something hidden. So I was already limited by the size, so that dictated the form in a way. So it had to be really short. So I did this what I call a micro. So each block is an autofiction like vignette, let's say, and basically, to give you a little background about what the blockchain, how the blockchain works, basically you have a bunch of transactions, and then the last hash, we call it, is like a summary of all the transaction inside that block. And then the next chain takes that last summary hash and then begins with that hash. So in that way, they're all linked together. So the last part of the first block, the first part of the second block, and so on. So that's what I did with the writing. So the last sentence of the first block is this first sentence of the next block, and so on. So it's kind of like mimics the blockchain. And this series is, let's say, it's the Bitcoin blockchain. So in the first Bitcoin blockchain, there are no real transactions, and and also there's like a New York Times headline in it, which refers to the bailouts in 2008. So I also added like a reference. I also added like a New York Times headline of the day that I wrote this. And then, so yeah, so you have like the little story, and then it ends with, is this the beginning or the end? And then the next block, it begins with, is this the beginning or the end? And then ends with this sentence, and then the next one begins with this last sentence here. So and the content itself is not crypto related, it's autofiction, so it's like loosely based on my life. But the form was kind of dictated by the idea that I had related to crypto. And the content, in a sense, is sort of dictated by that as well, because it begins with the sentence. I don't really have a choice. Like I'm limited by that first sentence. So yeah, that's my first project.
And then that's really, really cool. And then, so like, how is it when you release it? Like, what did you do? What did the release look like? Did you like tweet it? Did you find an audience and did you sell it? Like, what was that like?
So I was really, really lucky because I just kind of put it out there. I'm very bad at marketing. I just minted it. Well, I put it up on OpenSea. And it just kind of sat there for a month, maybe, or two. And then there was a hacker artist called Nahiko, which we'll also talk about later, because we did a project together. And he found my blog. I don't know how. He found my blog and he messaged me on Twitter, and he was like, he liked particularly, I think, the second blog. And he just gave me, he just said, oh yeah, I really like your second blog. And then he ended up buying it. I think he shared it on Twitter. And and I also did another one called Trading Histories for a meme competition. So meme is another like platform that mixes DeFi and NFTs. And I entered this competition that they were holding. And my entry didn't win, but Jordan Lyle, who's like the creator of meme, he ended up buying the NFT. So immediately I got like collectors who are either like relatively well-known artists or like a pretty big name in the space. And then after that, there were a few other collectors that through them found my work and ended up buying my NFTs. So it was pure just like luck for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And like even that, sort of you call them collectors, whereas like, in sort of like Web2 writing, you call them like readers, right? But like crypto writing doesn't even really have readers yet. It's more like people who want to own, and they want to own something that could be collectible, it could rise in value, right? And then
Exactly.
also they want to support you because they think you're doing cool art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a really important point about these crypto like collectors. They're also like a lot of artists are also collectors. Like I collect things as well. Like I buy other people's work.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think that's like one important thing that I've come to understand, because like when sort of, I think the early days when I joined the Crypto Writers Discord, I had a short story that I thought was particularly good about startups, but it had nothing to do with crypto. And I was like, oh, I should make this an NFT. But the more that I sort of understood about the actual space, the more I saw that like you still need to find your audience, and it's way more likely that the market right now, in terms of the people who are interested in actually paying for different kinds of NFT collectibles, it's way more likely that they're crypto native. They like are very familiar with like sending Ethereum around or like changing it into some other coin and paying for artists. And they also like really believe in the future of this space and are willing to support it with their money, versus like you're likely not going to find like a traditional reader of ebooks who buys books on Amazon, who doesn't
Right,
understand anything about crypto, like getting Ethereum and then buying your work.
right, right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You're not going to get like the yeah, yeah. So this is also why I think it's interesting to adapt kind of the work to the space. Because it speaks to the collectors as well. For example, if the 12 project or something that's crypto native, I think appeals to that audience. Yeah.
Cool. So okay, so you did if you understand, and you made these relationships, and then like what did you do next? Because the next project like got a lot bigger, right?
The next project. So oh, are you talking about YP 1131?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the project. This is not my project. This is Nahiko's project, the first artist collector that I was talking about. So he is a hacker, and he makes art, like performance hack art, let's call it, because it's kind of difficult to describe. But basically, he's hacked a bunch of platforms, and he had this idea of hacking IPFS, which is where the file is stored. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where the NFT file is stored. So after he bought my first piece, he contacted me and he's like, oh, I might have a project that would be a good fit for you. And he asked me to write a piece on domestic violence or femicide. And I have no experience with that personally, but I wrote a piece about being a woman and about women's bodies, my body, and kind of the violence that, I think a lot of women experience. So his piece, it's called YP 1131. I think it's a chromosome or something that determines whether you're male or female. So this is what you see when you, this is the front end of the NFT. It's what you see when you look at the NFT. So what he did was, there's like, when you first see it, you see a bunch of limbs, like female bodies. And this was a collaboration with me, Naiko, and Mike Saint-Jean, who did the sound. So this is the first part, like the front part. And then what you have to do is you basically download the video. Okay, it's not working. I will try to, yeah, okay, so this is the video. I've downloaded already. And then basically you have video, and then you download it, and then you change the extension to MP4 to PDF. And then behind the video, you have the text, you have the writing. And the concept behind it was that often when you have victims of abuse, their stories are often hidden behind this veil of other voices. The piece kind of reflects that phenomenon. So the writing in my story as a woman is hidden behind their work, which is like the video and the sound. And this piece, because Naiko by that point, he was pretty well known. This got auctioned off on Known Origin, an NFT platform, and it sold for like 18.8 ETH, which is a lot of money. I think it was like, I don't know, probably 30,000 US dollars at the time. It's probably more now.
Right now it's like 80 grand or something.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
or maybe a little less because Ethereum just dipped.
Yeah, well, when Ethereum was 4,000, yeah, it must have been around that, yeah. So this was like a huge project that I guess also really helped me, obviously, and he split the profits in three, so that was really cool of him. Yeah, it was a really nice. This is a project I really liked. I like working on, and it was nice to work with them too, the Mike St. Jean and Naiko. So yeah, this is a project I really enjoyed, and I'm really proud of too.
Yeah, I think this project is so cool. I remember when I saw it, it kind of blew my mind because I just thought it was an image at first, and then somebody I think posted, "Oh, to change the file," and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah,
I
so
think,
that was, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was the idea. So if you don't dig deeper, like that's kind of all you see. But for the people who kind of like try to look at it a little longer, dig a little deeper, you kind of see the other side, and that's kind of a parallel to what happens in in situations of domestic violence or violence against women. You really have to kind of pay attention, to listen, and I think that's kind of what he wanted to get across as well.
It's badass. I think also what's really cool, just it kind of shows off like the power of what happens when, at least what can happen right now. I mean, across all art forms really, but like especially now when you have some influencer involved in the project who has a real following in the space, and then combine forces with other artists all around some central theme that everybody really responds to, kind of becomes bigger than what one person is capable of doing.
Exactly, yeah. That was really brought home to me with this project, because he didn't tell me how to do it or what he was in for. He was very like, he gave me the topic and he's like, you do what you want, you do your thing. Mike St. Jean, he does his thing, and Naiko, he does his thing. And it all just kind of came together really nicely. And that was the first time I collaborated in an artistic project with other people. And it really hit home for me. Like, I was like, okay, wow, this is, it could be like, collaborations can be very powerful, like if each person does their part, it can be something even bigger than, what you could do by yourself. Yeah. So
then next you did you took that to like the next level, right? Like you did like super collaboration.
So the next collaboration I did was called 12. And this one, I need to kind of explain like how wallets work. And basically, each person needs to participate in Web3 and buy NFTs, you need something called a wallet. And you have an address, which is like a string of numbers and letters. And that's kind of like your ID, like it identifies you in the space. And when you buy, for example, an NFT, it goes into your wallet, and that's where all your NFTs go. And wallets have what's called a seed phrase, it's kind of like I think you have a password as well, but you also have a seed phrase, which is like 12 randomly generated, usually randomly generated words. So it can be like nouns, verbs, whatever. I've always wanted to work with that around, do something around the seed phrase because they're words, and because I work with words, it was just kind of a natural place for me to gravitate toward. And so I had this idea. I worked on it with my husband, and the idea was to put 12 NFTs into this wallet, and so when it's in the wallet, you can't access it. It's it's that person's NFT. But then what I did was I released another NFT, and it was a poem. And in the poem, there were the 12 seed words inside that poem. And there was also, with that NFT, there was an unlockable content. So in order to access the unlockable content, you have to buy the NFT. And the unlockable content was the clues to find the 12 words inside the poem that made up the seed phrase that opened the wallet. So what I did was I asked 12 other crypto writers, because I also wanted this, to be like a crypto writing project. And I wanted to help promote other crypto writers whose work I really liked, and also to promote like crypto literature in general. And so I asked these 12 crypto writers if they would contribute an NFT to put into the wallet. James was one of the crypto writers in the project. And and it kind of turned into this big thing. Like James ended up making the website. Another contributor called Pale Horse, he's really into the metaverse, and he has like a plot in Decentraland, which is a virtual world. And he ended up making, I'm going to show you a picture because it's really nice. He ended up making this amazing gallery. So the website kind of looks like this. There are a bunch of, I don't know, I'll show you the website as well. So this is the website, and behind each number you have the crypto writer, a bit about the crypto writer, and then you have their contribution, their NFT. So this is what the site looked like. And then what Pale Horse ended up doing was he made the gallery that kind of looked like the website. So behind each number, you can see like the NFTs, and it has a little explanation, little blurb on the other side. And you can actually go and visit it, and you can, there's like an elevator that goes up and down to access all the upper levels. And you can look at the NFTs in the metaverse. So that's another photo of the top level. And yeah, so what ended up happening, it was really funny because so there weren't actually too many people. I think when I released it, I don't know, maybe I didn't promote it enough, or it was a bit of a bear market in NFTs at the time. We didn't sell a whole lot. We sold much less than I had hoped. I think there were maybe like 8 people, but they all had a lot of fun, and I think it was still a success because I got a lot of really positive feedback, and everyone all the collectors had a good time, and it was like a big game. And so it was fun. And what ended up happening was the first person who opened the wallet, who cracked the seed phrase and opened the wallet, his name is Mim Nermos. He messaged me and he's like, I think I'm going to just take 6, so half of the NFTs, and I'm going to leave the other half in the wallet so that the next person who cracks it can also, I'll share the loot, which is really nice of him. And so so he took 6. And then the next people, and then two other people ended up joining forces, and they compared answers, and they ended up opening the wallet together. And I guess they couldn't agree on which ones they wanted to take. So what they ended up doing is they sent the 6 NFTs to my wallet. I woke up in the morning, I looked at my wallet, I'm like, what are all the NFTs doing in my wallet? Started panicking. And then I saw the Twitter messages, and then I figured out what they'd done. So yeah, I think that is also part of the crypto world, you know, like, first of all, I think there's a lot of people are like super generous, and there's like this really nice, like open spirit, I think. There's scams, of course, too, but I think at least the people that I've come in contact with, they're very, there's just this, this generosity that I see. And I think I think it's also part of crypto, like the history of a piece of work, like an artwork, like who owns it, how it changes hands. Like this is the history and the story behind the artwork, and the ownership, I think, also makes up part of, sometimes also makes as part of the artwork itself, or at least the history of it, more so than like traditional art. So I thought that was a really fun part of the project, like what the collectors actually did, that would play the part that they played.
It's so fun. So like they all have this story, because like basically like what you did, I guess, is like almost like in the real world it would have been like you got a treasure chest, you put it somewhere and filled it with like 12 different artifacts that were created by 12 different fantastic artists, and then you like release like a poem that had clues to how to open that treasure chest, and then whoever got there first could own it, right? Could own what's inside. But you did that in the digital world, and you did it like as a play on, you know, the seed phrase.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, so I think like the last one, the 12, you know, that's an example of what I was talking about earlier, is like this just couldn't happen anywhere else. Like this is a specifically crypto native project. Like you couldn't have like there's like the game aspect, there's the, you know, the participation of the collectors. Like it wouldn't be, the project wouldn't be what it was if there wasn't also the collectors also. And another thing that I really liked about this project was like the word cryptography means crypto is like hidden or vault, right? And then graphy means writing. And so I felt like this project was really, was literally, in the literal sense, a cryptographic project, because there's something hidden in the writing that you kind of, that only the person who cracks it can, you know, access the vault. There's like the writing inside the vaults, which is like the wallet. And so I thought it was kind of a nice analogy, I guess, for what cryptography is. Yeah, so, and I think this is, an example of the kind of thing that I like to do. So writing that's centered on crypto, and it could only happen here. But it's actually, I don't know, it's hard to find projects that are that could only really happen in the crypto space, I guess. Like for example, my If You Understand series is, it could be a book, you know, like I could publish it and it would work just as well. So I guess that If You Understand would be an example of the second type of crypto writing I was talking about, that makes reference, has cultural references, crypto cultural references, that, you know, people who are involved in crypto can appreciate from the name and the, you know, the New York Times article headline. But yeah, 12 and I think YP 1131 are really things that could only happen as a crypto writing project.
Yeah, I think it's all awesome. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah. Oh.
I think like we should also show sort of maybe some other projects that like other writers are doing that show off kind of maybe other
Yeah.
dimensions of what are possible. Like, you know, maybe James's stuff is a really good example
Yeah.
of something that is like taking some other technology and applying it to NFTs in a pretty insane and amazing way.
Yeah. I don't know if James wants to talk about it. Yeah, he's been doing a lot of stuff on Pick and Move recently, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I'm work with Colin on 12, but and for that I mostly do like collaborations with GPT-3 in like creating either narratives or poetry, and most recently more interactive pieces that kind of bring in literature into interactive modalities. It's a little tough to explain. You sort of have to see it. But
I think I have one
I
we
like
can
playing
call
with
up.
text and sort of the bring them into like a visual space. And you know, part of that reason when I started that was because you know, looking at a lot of the platforms out there, they were very focused on visual artists. So I said, like to myself, like, oh, well, if I can incorporate poetry into that visual medium, I think it would be more popular. So it's sort of playing a little bit to the market. But yeah, but I'm super excited about sort of the what can crypto like writing do to traditional writing, and as a platform. I think it's also it embraces also weird things. I feel like versus like the traditional publishing world. That's why I also find oh yeah, this is my piece, so Jay showing it. So this is a piece called Things Are a Little Crazy Right Now. So this is a big piece that like kind of blew up and became a little viral on Twitter. So it's basically two chatbots trying to schedule a time for a coffee meeting together. So it definitely struck a chord. Basically goes on forever. I used GPT-3 to come up with various different excuses for why a meeting cannot occur at that time. So it's that sort of banal frustration that we have on a daily basis trying to schedule something with a close friend, and you're like, maybe this will never happen. But I think this is an example of, well, is this literature? Kind of. I mean, is this like an interactive visual piece? Kind of, right? So it's a sort of a melding of those things together. And I feel like the crypto art scene sort of embraced this, right? As like, okay, well, yeah, this works, right? It's like because it's weird, but it works. So I felt like as a platform, like NFTs, like this worked really well in that sense.
Because it's like to
Yeah.
me, it's almost like it's something that nobody's ever seen before, and it's collectible, and they get to support the creator.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's inherently digital too. You know? It's the iPhone like message, like
yeah.
It's it's a great piece. That I love that one.
Yeah, it's
But
really cool.
I think there's. I also wanted to mention like some other people like who are doing cool things. For example, like I see sometimes a lot is also like storytelling, but in like a mixed medium storytelling. So it's not just writing, but there's also like images, like digital art, music, sound, that all comes together to tell the story. And for example, like Rick Galbraith, who's also one of the 12, he has a series called Tales of the Glitch, and he collaborates with I think a musician and a digital artist, and he brings like their work together to tell a story. So each artist brings an element to the story. And then there's also Devoid, who's he has his series. I don't know what it's called, but basically he calls it a novella, metaphysical novella in pictures, and it's a story about a black square who's trapped in this 2D world, and you have these. I don't know. Let me see if I can. And they're visually like really nice. So you have like, this is like the series, and you have the little black, his name is Rex, and you have like the story of Rex, and then he ends up meeting like a being from a higher dimension, and then they fall in love, and like, you know, there's all this whole story behind all these pictures. I don't know, I think he has plans to do something, maybe add like like actual story, like writing later as well, but he's also a filmmaker, so I don't know, I don't know what plans he has exactly for the project, but yeah, I think that's really interesting to storytelling through different mediums. So yeah, that's also something I like a lot, those kinds of projects. Also, there's the publishing side of things. There's someone called Ross McElwain, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And he's about to launch this project called Impossible Objects. And it's basically like he was inspired by I think he was inspired by something called semiotext, which like back in the day it was basically philosophers or theorists who would have these conversations, and then, or no, that's the seminars, but basically you have these conversations, and then at the end you have people from the audience asking questions or interacting with the speakers, and that's also inside the text, like the audience's comments and questions. And he's doing something similar, and he's about to launch his first, the first one, and it's a bunch of people talking about a topic. I think they're talking about AI and other things, and they have like conversations, and then he's gonna have a preliminary version of that. He's gonna, I don't know if he's gonna make it an NFT, but basically everyone can read it, and then people can submit their comments or questions or add to the conversation. And then he's gonna do a second, like the final version, with some of the comments from the audience or the readers. And he's gonna make that into the final version of the book. And his idea is, he said, he's kind of printing the internet. And I like that idea. It's more fluid than a book, which is, you know, you can't change a book once it's printed. That's the final version. But I like that idea of, you know, the contents of the book can grow and change, and you can have like readers be part of the book. And yeah, I really like that idea. And he's thinking of also doing like a proto DAO where, well, this is just an idea that he has, that he's still working on it, but basically a DAO where he can provide financial and artistic support to artists and writers. And yeah, so he's got a lot of good ideas as well. And there's, so on the publishing side, there's also a lot of cool things happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because it's like a combination of sort of traditional approach of, you know, forming a publisher or like a small press and trying to kind of combine forces with a bunch of artists and writers to, you know, it's almost an expression of what you're doing with collaborating with people. And, you know, so taking a cue from traditional publishing and saying like, if you're a writer, you're going to, you know, we can help you get your work out in front of more people by combining forces, which I think is pretty cool. Another, I think like we can talk about, it's pretty good like mix of projects, I think, that we've sort of run through. I think we could talk about like, you know, sum it all by talking about the platforms, but like, you know, I think one platform worth mentioning, and also maybe like one project that I think is really interesting, is this platform called Mirror, and this novel that got crowdfunded on Mirror for like 25 Ethereum, which is like 70 grand. or something like that. This is like in my mind an example of like where the technology could go and what it makes possible for writing that isn't necessarily crypto native. So it's more so taking the implications of the technology and saying like, because of this technology, this piece of art can now exist. So basically, there's this writer, Emily Siegel, who had an idea for a novel called Burn Alpha. It's not a crypto novel. It's like a boarding school novel, kind of like Cruel Intentions. And she had like a little bit of a following. I think she only has like 5,000 Twitter followers or something like that, though. And she launched what is essentially a crypto Kickstarter, I'll call it. So there's all the attributes of a Kickstarter, like you would. She put her idea for the book up on this page. She's got like tiers that you can buy in, you can support. She talks about the novel idea. You know, she gives her pitch. But in addition to like buying in, what she's also done is created this like token called $novel that says like, you as a backer, not only do you get these rewards if you help me fund my novel idea, but you also get ownership stake in the actual art that's created. Like you get an ownership stake in the novel. I think I bought like 0.6% of this novel. So it's like almost like backing a thing on Kickstarter, but I also now have the upside. If her novel releases and if it becomes popular, I can make money on it. And I think so what Mirror is it's essentially this platform for writers. I think it's the first one in the crypto space, decentralized platform where it's giving you tools to create NFTs of writing, to crowdfund different ideas, to give ownership in your work to your supporters. And they're introducing another feature called splits that let you like orchestrate contracts with collaborators where like, let's say everybody here was like, we're going to work on a piece of writing together, like a short story idea. Somebody's a cover artist and somebody's going to be the editor. Somebody's going to be the writer. In Mirror, it allows you tools to actually say, okay, the editor gets like this % of what we sell, and the writer gets this %, and so on. And when somebody pays for it, that money just gets automatically routed to everybody else. There's like no paperwork. It's all on the blockchain. And so I think if crypto goes mainstream, like if sort of all the people who are spending all their time building these technologies and pushing them forward, and if it goes mainstream, it'll get a lot less complicated for people to buy these things. And I think these kind of new models where it's just like the same thing that currently exists in Web 2, but better because you have like additional upside, additional flexibility, and it cuts out the middleman. That's kind of what I keep thinking about. So yeah, I guess the other two platforms that we could talk about is like for people who are interested in, well, I guess if you're interested in getting started into this, like the first thing that I would for sure do is join the Crypto Writers Discord. So I just dropped a link in the chat around that. But the other things you'll want to do, I'll share my screen again. First thing is like you need to get some Ethereum. And in order to do that, like I would learn a little bit about Ethereum, go to ethereum.org. You also need a wallet, like Kalen mentioned. So MetaMask is one that is pretty popular. It's pretty easy to use. You just have to spend a little bit of time kind of getting familiar with it. It's not insanely complicated, but it's like not as easy as like setting up a PayPal account, I would say. Rainbow.me is like another mobile friendly wallet that is really good design and a lot of people like. So I'd probably spend like a little bit of time looking at this. Also thinking through like, you know, how committed are you? Do you really want to invest in a project? Like, do you really want to be handling Ethereum? But if you do, you sort of have to go this route. And then the two major marketplaces, there's a lot, but the two ones that we can talk about that are pretty easy to use. Well, one is pretty easy to use, is OpenSea. Kalen, how would you describe OpenSea?
I would say it's a very accessible marketplace. So it's not a bad place to start. And this is where I have all my work. And what appealed to me was that it's gasless minting. It's called lazy minting. So basically, when you mint an NFT, you have to pay what we call gas, which is and right now it's very, very expensive. It's not a negligible amount. And the upside with OpenSea is that you don't have to pay to mint. But having said that, there are some collectors who don't like OpenSea because technically when you do the lazy minting, it's not actually on the blockchain yet. It's only officially on the blockchain once the person buys it. So some people don't like that, but for me, like the pros outweigh the cons. So I'm on OpenSea, and I like it. I think it's very easy to use. Yeah. There's also Rarible, which it doesn't have lazy minting. It mints on the blockchain, but it's also quite accessible. And the thing is with OpenSea and Rarible, there's no curation. Like most of the other platforms, like Known Origin, Super Rare, all the other ones, you have to apply and be approved. And Rarible and OpenSea, it's open to everyone. Yeah.
Sure. And what about Hen? That would be the other one, right? Like
Yeah. So Hen is but Hen is a different blockchain. So it's not Ethereum. It doesn't run on the Ethereum blockchain. It's on the Tezos blockchain.
right. So you need to sort of trade Ethereum for Tezos.
Yeah, it can be kind of complicated, I guess, even for someone who's who does have crypto knowledge. But it's a really cool platform, and I find that a lot of artists, well, quite a few artists are starting to migrate to Hen. And I think they're doing like a Hen, what is it called, Hennathon or something, where they're taking a weekend to kind of work on improving it. But yeah, it's got a lot of really cool art. I know James is on there.
The big benefit, as far as I understand, is it's like more energy efficient.
Yes. So it doesn't have gas. Like it's because it's not proof of work. It's you pay like a couple cents to mint something. So yeah, that's definitely a pro.
Right, and gas fees are basically like payments that the users will make to sort of compensate for like the energy expense of mining the blockchain.
Exactly. It's just so like another word on that, like because there's a lot of talk in the mainstream media about how NFTs have destroyed the environment and stuff, and it's true that right now, as it stands, it does use a lot of energy. But I mean, right now they're working on. So right now, Ethereum works on proof of work, which means that a lot of computers need to work to approve the transactions and stuff like that. But they're working on the next version, which is going to be proof of stake. And once that happens, like it's going to be like almost no gas fee. Like the whole issue, the gas is not going to be an issue anymore, and the environmental question is going to be moot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I imagine it's yeah, exactly. I imagine it's a lot like I was like in virtual reality in the early days, and like there are cables coming out of the headset connected. You need a high powered computer, and then suddenly it's like portable and it just works. And like, I imagine in crypto, it's going to be like, do you remember when we used to pay gas fees and they fluctuated wildly and you had to like trade currency around the internet for all these random coins? It'll just work. And I think like the interesting, like you all saw when I was sort of showing off these sites, are that they're so focused on visual media and visual art, and like writing is almost like a second or a third class citizen. And so that to me like just spells a lot of opportunity, because if you look at Web 2, like, you know, you have that, there's so many ebooks, there's so much writing on the internet that is all over the place on, you know, every platform you can imagine. And if you're a reader, you have so many choices. But in NFT space, in crypto, you just don't have that right now. So there is a real opportunity if you're willing to kind of get your hands dirty and experiment and try to, you know, surf the wave and be a pioneer in the space, which I think is what's so like inspiring about what you've done, Kalen.
Nice. Yeah, I think experimentation and kind of this playfulness is the name of the game. Well, at least for me, I see a lot of that happening, and I think that's what's most interesting about what's happening with writing in the space. So yeah, a lot of exciting things happening already, and I'm sure in the future as well.
Cool. Yeah. You have anything else to add? Any last thoughts?
I think no. Well, I hope the people who are here who are not part of the Discord or who are new to crypto will try crypto writing, experiment, and yeah, I'm really excited about all the possibilities of what we could do with writing in the space. We're just at the beginning, so I feel like we're all just trying to figure things out, and we're trying to figure out what we can do. We're all experimenting, and we're all kind of defining what crypto literature or crypto writing can be like together. So I think that's it's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. It is exciting. I suspect, like, you know, when people who like only like had handled paperback books, whether you're like a reader or a publisher or hardcover books or whatever, when they heard about ebooks, they were like, "That is just insane! Like, WTF is an ebook?" Like, yeah. And so I see like a lot of similarities here, which you know, it is pretty exciting. So yeah, thanks, y'all. That's our crash course on crypto writing. If anyone has questions, let's get them out. We can have a discussion. If anyone wants to, you know, talk about any of this, now is the opportunity. What's the hardest part about minting an NFT, or is there a hard part?
What's the hardest part? I think the hardest part comes before minting. I think there's a very kind of a steep learning curve at the beginning. Like, you got to figure out the wallets, like the MetaMask, the platforms, and I think that's the hardest part. Like, what comes before the minting. The actual minting is pretty straightforward, I feel like, at least on OpenSea. I think figuring out the wallet, and yeah, I would be very careful though about. Pardon?
Glaren said finding the funds.
Yeah, that too. Because it's really expensive. Like I guess there's like a bit of a dip right now, but Ethereum Ether has gotten really high. Like, the price is really high right now, no less so than a little while ago. But so I think it's just getting like started in Web3, like figuring out how everything works, like how the crypto works, how to set up your wallet. I think that's probably the hardest part. But I mean, there are a lot of resources out there, so shouldn't be too hard to find resources, at least to figure it out.
Yeah, the platforms have, with the exception of Hen, I guess, like OpenSea and Rarible and those platforms, have made it really easy to just, you know, you can mint something within minutes if you have the media.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think like it might be a little bit intimidating because suddenly there's like, oh, there's currency and there's wallets, there's all these like new things, but it's actually not. It's probably equivalent in my mind to like figuring out how to like properly format and distribute an ebook on Amazon, like how to make sure the formatting works. It's like similar amount of kind of having to do research and, you know, prepare yourself. I think it's also like, it's probably good to like be prepared to experiment. Like, the first one, don't count on, you know, it reaching collectors. Be ready to kind of take a bunch of shots on goal, and also kind of have an idea for like like anything, any other kind of a media, like what is the goal with it? What is a win in your eyes? And kind of how can you accomplish that? Once it's minted, like what do you do with it? Discoverability on these platforms is not great. And so, you kind of want to know, how are you going to share it? Maybe it's just sharing it in the Cryptos Writers Discord. That might be cool at first. James,
I think a lot of it happens. A lot of it happens on Twitter as well. But yeah, it's hard to be discovered. Like it's hard to get eyes on your work for sure. Yeah, but for me, like I see a lot of promotion happening on Twitter more than anywhere else. Like that's the platform for for art.
Yeah, James, I agree. James asked, aside from Emily, are there other examples of novelist short story breakouts in the NFT world? No, I don't think there are. If there are, I haven't heard of them. I haven't heard of them on like NFT Twitter or mainstream like Twitter. So it's interesting to think about. Like that should be a really big opportunity for new writers and for like, the big titans of the writing industry and the different genres to kind of come in and do something cool. I think I think it's the danger is like something that I saw in like esports, for example. You had like 100 Thieves, one of the most popular teams, and you had one of the most popular gamers who was his name escapes me now. Tfue, he's a Fortnite player. They saw the NFT buzz and they were like, let's make NFTs and sell them to our fans. The problem there is like their releases didn't really go great because their fans were like, WTF for NFTs. This is like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to buy it. Like they weren't crypto native. And so I think there's like, if you had like let's say like a Brandon Sanderson, who's like a, super famous fantasy author, and he said he was going to make like a limited edition of the Stormlight Archive as an NFT, because he's actually doing the physical version of this as leather-bound books. And he sold millions and millions of dollars of those leather-bound books. I think that author would really be towing this line between like, with the readers, where they really have to do it in a way where it doesn't feel like a cash grab, where they're actually excited about the possibilities and they think that their readers would want the thing. But I think there are probably many authors whose readers would be excited about it, because one of the coolest things about this technology is that it's decentralized. It kind of represents like this idea of like more freedom for the artist. The idea that like you can have more collectible things and display them in new ways, and it's very future oriented. So yeah, that's what I think and what I've seen at least.
Yeah, I think in terms of novels and short stories, I know there's WIP Publishing, which is another platform, I guess. And well, maybe not a platform. I don't really know. They're all about publishing novels, I think. I haven't looked into it too much, but yeah, they're trying to publish novels as NFTs, I believe.
Right, I've seen that. I think it's a cool idea. I think the challenge they have is like anyone, just starting out as a platform, it's like you have the chicken and egg problem where it's like, how do you get readers of these things when readers aren't really there in the you kind of have to find the breakout hits in order to bring in the initial people. But I do think it's a cool idea. I think we're going to see more and more stuff like that. It's WIPpublishing.com.
There's also Simon who has like I think he's working on a big project called Untitled Frontiers, and he has some really interesting ideas around what you could do with writing and NFTs. And he mentioned in the Discord, like when you have for example, if you have a book, you can, and say the book talks about like a particular painting or about you know, a letter, and you can actually make an NFT of that painting or that letter, and you can sell that NFT as well as part of like the, not merch, but you know, it's like a maybe satellite NFT to the actual book as well, which I think is an interesting idea as well.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I mean, that's kind of a good segue into Sydney's question, who said, you know, he asked, imagine there are no limitations, crypto is ubiquitous. Would that change how you approach crypto writing when more authors are doing it? What's the craziest, most creative direction you can see writers trying in that world where everybody is tinkering? I mean, I think to the first part, like when it's more ubiquitous and everybody's doing it, it's like, you know, look at if you're going to write a book now and try to publish it, what do you do to stand out, right? You have long odds against you because there's a glut of content on the market. So one, you really go back to just craft first and foremost. Like you got to write a good story. You have to tell a good story. I mean, that's generally the best thing you can do regardless, right? The better the story is in crypto now, the better chances you have that's going to connect with collectors. But like, even so, and there's a sea of stuff around you. And then beyond that, like what can you do that's really unique, that plays with at least that plays with something, whether it's like you have a new spin on vampires in 5 years from now, or you have a new spin on like the form. In terms of craziest thing that I can think of just offhand is kind of playing with what Kalen mentioned around the idea that like I guess Simon Untitled Frontier, where you could turn other things inside the art into NFTs. Like I'm imagining something like a meta book, which is like an object that people carry around through different metaverses or whatever, virtual worlds like this, or like in a VR world or AR or whatever. And that meta book is like the way you get access to, let's say it's my meta book. So it's like the way you get access to all the things that I write and create. And it's like this thing that can transform depending on what is released that week or whatever. Maybe today I wrote a story about dinosaurs and it releases and you get like an alert on your meta book. And if you buy the NFT of the dinosaur, the whole thing transforms into a dinosaur and you can like hang out with it. And the dinosaur will also read the story in like a British voice out loud to you, like an audiobook. I think stuff like that is going to be like.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent idea, and I think that is definitely possible. Like I can definitely see that happening, and that just actually reminds me of Pale Horse, the guy who did the gallery for 12. He actually has so he's really into like the metaverse and Decentraland, and he has ideas around creating new reading experience within the metaverse. So, for example, you have like a book. And you can like read it in Decentraland. Inside, for example, like I don't know, let's say the book takes place in like a castle, and like you would be in Decentraland inside that castle where the book takes place, and then you can like go and talk to the author in the other room and like have these kind of experiences that are distinctly you know, metaverse centric reading experiences. And yeah, I think that's something else that's really interesting as well, like new reading experiences in virtual worlds.
Yeah, it reminds me of having PTSD flashbacks to when we were making VR games and we had books inside the VR world, and like so many users were just like, oh, I hate reading books in VR. It's so bad. But that won't be the case in the future. Like when it's as good of an experience as just like the Kindle Paperwhite or whatever. But like we had a lot of problems with trying to make readable things in like 2018. I do think like one important takeaway though is like around NFTs, it's like the things that really work are like similar to the things that work in real life as far as collectibles. Like there's some rarity. People want to buy it because they either want to like, it's one of a kind and they want to support, or it's like one of X. They want to support the artist and own it. and have that connection to the artist, or like they want to speculate on it because they think owning it will it's like owning the first edition Spider-Man or something like that. Like it'll go up in value, or like the first edition of some famous baseball player signed to baseball. And so I think like no matter what happens when crypto becomes ubiquitous, I think like one of the things, at least around NFTs, is that's important to understand about NFTs is that like they make digital media ownable and collectible. So it's like what, in books, some of this, there's like rare editions of books that get sold at rare bookstores. That will likely be the case in the future. You'll have rare, cool NFTs that were one of a kind that only one person could get, that have like, but instead of having like an amazing like leather cover with incredible art, it's like, it's like Kalen's project where with the PDF and the video, where there's sound and there's animation and it can be interactive. You can like touch it and manipulate it and do things like that can only exist in a digital world.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, like the ownership aspect of it, because that's basically what an NFT is, right? Like it started with digital art because, everyone's always talking about why would I buy an NFT when I can just right click and save? But that's completely beside the point, because you're not buying the JPEG, you're buying the token, which means that you own that artwork. And actually, the more people see it and the more well-known it is, the higher in value, the more valuable it becomes, right? Because as the owner, it increases the value. So I think that's also the case in terms of writing, like that. It's interesting, like somebody can own the token and own the piece of writing, but the writing itself is open to everyone, so everyone can read it and enjoy the work. But it's owned by the person who bought the NFT, the token.
That's it for us. I would say, if you want to continue the conversation, definitely join the Crypto Writers Discord. Thank you, Kalen, for agreeing to this and coming and bestowing upon us your experience and knowledge. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it was a nice conversation. Thanks. It was a good time.